We're talking about ways to pay tribute to the late Dr. Martin Luther King and ways you and your kids can get involved today.
Now, in the fifth week of the government shutdown, Democrats plan to block a bill that trades protections for so-called dreamers for border wall funding.
This is News 3 This Morning.
Good morning and welcome to News 3 This Morning. It is 6 o'clock now on this Monday, January 21st. The news of the morning, these bitter cold temperatures we haven't seen in months.
Yeah, we really haven't. It is certainly cold out there. The wind has relaxed. That's good news, but folks, we are still below zero. We're going to be staying below zero for quite some time this morning before we finally begin to warm up. The wind chill, -13 in Madison right now, -21 for Lone Rock and Pottville, Black River Falls, the wind chill, -22. Now, our actual air temperature in Madison is also -13. Those winds have come down a little bit, and yes, we did drop another degree. So we're playing the yo-yo move before we begin to finally warm things up, and I do think we will. This morning we'll go from -11 towards 8 degrees, especially as we get closer towards lunchtime, topping out this afternoon right around 16. Those winds are going to become more southeasterly. That's going to be ahead of another region of low pressure, though. So you're going to see the cloud cover begin to increase, and into Tuesday, we could watch the snowflakes fly once again. We do have winter storm watches in effect from 6 a.m. Tuesday all the way through 6 a.m. on Wednesday. That's where several inches of accumulation are possible. Here's one of the models just showing the storm moving in. We also have to watch for that possibility of freezing rain and even some rain mixing in with this system as a whole. So it could be a messy one. In fact, we have declared an alert day for Tuesday, and it gets even colder after that. I'll be talking about that in my main forecast.
Yeah, and the end of that 10-day does not look very nice.
No.
It does not look very nice, so we're trying to be nice by not going all in just yet. We're going to ease into it.
There you go.
Yep.
We'll see you soon then with that.
Yes.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks,
All right.
Chris.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Chris. First this morning, we have some breaking news out of the Dane County Airport. A spokesperson there says they are investigating a power outage this morning. That's the scene there. That's a photo taken by a viewer sent to us. Madison Gas and Electric posted on their website the outage started around 5:30 and is expected to last until 10:15. We're also getting reports from viewers that TSA and all check-ins are shut down. The airport says the TSA may have slight delays until the power turns back on. They're working on getting a generator to take over in the meantime. It did not turn on like it was supposed to. Now, we do have Josh Spreiter on the way there this morning. He's going to have the latest updates as we learn more.
We will be able to emerge from the bleak and desolate midnight of man's inhumanity to man into the bright and glittering daybreak of freedom and justice.
On this Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we want to take a look back at the civil rights leader's legacy. You just heard an excerpt there from Dr. King's speech when he spoke to a full house over at the UW-Madison campus back in 1965. By that time, he had already earned a Nobel Peace Prize for leading the fight against racial inequality here in this country. His speech, titled "The Future of Integration," focused on the importance of nonviolent protests. He also thanked students and professors for responding with, quote, "great zeal and dedication" when he reached out for their support. There
is another historic ceremony happening on the UW campus today to honor Martin Luther King Jr. Day. The state's first African-American lieutenant governor, Mandela Barnes, will be the keynote speaker at today's festivities. Event planners say there is no better person to speak at this year's theme, which is manifesting the dreams of the movement. Mandela Barnes made history in November when he was elected as the first ever African-American lieutenant governor in the state. It's his message UW Assistant Director of Cultural Programming, Carla Foster, wants everyone to hear.
I think that continuous push and fight for equity and diversity and inclusion on campus is something that I hold very near and dear to my heart, and I take very seriously.
Now, Foster helped open the new Black Cultural Center on the UW campus as a safe place for all students. Foster says she's happy to see more civic engagement this year and wants to keep the movement going. The MLK Day celebration kicks off at 1 this afternoon at Union South. Tonight at the Overture Center, there's another opportunity for you to remember Dr. King and hear from a civil rights leader carrying on his legacy. Cheryl Brown Henderson is the keynote speaker at tonight's 34th annual Madison-Dane County King Holiday Observance. She is one of 3 daughters of the late Reverend Oliver L. Brown, who filed a suit on behalf of his children that became the landmark decision Brown v. Board of Education. Cheryl has made her own legacy as the founding president of the Brown Foundation for Educational Equity, Excellence, and Research. That event tonight features performances by the MLK Community Choir and the MLK Humanitarian Award, presented by Dane County Executive Joe Parisi and Madison Mayor Paul Soglin. That starts at 5 tonight over at the Overture Center. We are continuing to follow developments out of Washington, D.C. this morning, where the Senate is expected to vote tomorrow on President Trump's proposal to end the government shutdown, now in its 5th week. Over the weekend, the president offered temporary protection for some immigrants who were illegally brought into the country while they were kids in exchange for funding for his border wall. Democrats say that simply solves a problem the president created when he took those protections away from so-called dreamers earlier. The Senate is expected to vote on that bill tomorrow, although some Republicans say it's only a starting point, and Democrats say they plan to block it.
One of Wisconsin's newest representatives in Congress says it is time for that shutdown to end.
We need to reopen the government. I think the president's proposal is pretty reasonable. I'd like to see the Democrats come to the table with a resolution. But first and foremost, we need to be in Washington having a dialogue to reopen the government.
Ryan Steil was in Janesville yesterday afternoon getting sworn in front of a group of supporters. After the ceremony, he said that he and his team have hit the ground running in Washington, D.C., with the main focus of growing the economy and lowering the cost of health care. Even more immediately, Speaker Paul Ryan's replacement there says he is frustrated with the lack of compromise happening in regards to the shutdown.
The shutdown also impacting researchers at UW-Madison, but not necessarily in the way you might think. Many of their projects are at least partially funded by the government, but instead of slowing down some studies, researchers say they actually have more to do because they can't use many of the previous resources offered by the government. Still, while their work continues, those researchers aren't able to bill the government for the millions of dollars they spend every month because no one is there to process those requests. The good news, the National Institute of Health is still open, which is the university's main source of funding. Across the country, rescues and shelters are stepping in to help with the shutdown, while some federal workers struggle to take care of their families and their pets.
That's because a lack of a paycheck can often lead to more pets being surrendered. The Dane County Humane Society says it has not seen an influx of animals quite yet, but staff is prepared to help out if necessary. The Humane Society is reminding everyone everyone struggling to keep their pets, that there are other options out there besides giving them up. For instance, the organization does donate thousands of pounds of pet food and cat litter to local food pantries. And while they can take your pets if necessary, the main goal is keeping those animals in their homes.
It's a tough thing because when people hit hard economic times, we believe everyone deserves the love of a pet, and we believe that pets are best off staying in their own homes.
If your animal needs veterinary care, some offices like Precision Veterinary have discounted prices for certain procedures, including vaccinations. Those are available to anyone facing economic trouble, not just federal workers.
All right, to sports now. It is New England versus the LA Rams in Super Bowl 53. The Patriots are going back to the big game for the 3rd straight season, where they'll try for their 3rd championship in 5 years. Last night, they beat the Chiefs 37-31 in overtime with a 2-yard touchdown from Rex Burkhead. The Rams took the NFC Championship over the Saints in New Orleans last night. That was another overtime win, the Rams winning 26-23. You can watch Super Bowl 53 on Sunday, February 3rd, right here on News 3. All right, 6:08 now. If your kids are looking for a meaningful way to spend their day off from school today, there's a day of workshops planned to help them learn more about Martin Luther King Jr. and get inspired by his passion for service. We're going to hear from the event's organizer next.
A spokesperson for the Dane County Regional Airport says that airport's backup generators should be functional shortly. In the meantime, it is an all kinds of layers day with negative temperatures this morning. You probably see a couple school districts even on delay for the cold. Chris Reese has your first alert forecast next on News 3 this morning.
And one storm is out, another one is on the way to the Madison area. Winter storm watches are in effect as we await the next winter storm to move into the Madison area. Let's go ahead and show you guys how this is shaping up for us. Those winter storm watches go from Sheboygan all the way back towards places such as Boscobel, Prairie du Chien, up towards La Crosse and down throughout Platteville. They do include us here in Madison, but we'll talk more about that in just a moment. The big story right now is, of course, the temperatures and just how cold it is as you step outside. Wind chills in Madison at -13 right now, -21 the wind chill for Lone Rock and Platteville, -22 the wind chill as you work your way up towards Black River Falls. Now the actual air temperature is also 13 degrees below zero right now, but those winds are fairly light, only coming out of the north and northwest at about 3 miles per hour. So it's not having much of an impact on you in terms of how it feels. What it feels like is actually what the temperature is out there. 18 or -18 is the temperatures you work your way up towards the Dells. Mineral Point is one of the warmer spots at 1 above Milwaukee, the warmest spot at 4 degrees right now. Now we are watching the next system getting ready to move on in. That is already leading to at least some snows breaking out across parts of the high plains. Those will become more widespread, especially later on tonight and into your Tuesday. Look for that cloud cover to increase this afternoon, especially right around 3 or 4 o'clock or so. We'll see highs right around 16 degrees. It's overnight and into your Tuesday morning that we could begin to see some snow spreading into the area. In fact, the model's all in good agreement that we will see some snow around here. They do differ on the track, though. The GFS, one of the farther north tracks, and that does bring the potential of some freezing rain and rain to the area as well, along with some of the heavier snow before going back over to snow. The European, slightly farther towards the south and east, it does bring some freezing rain and rain to extreme southern and eastern Wisconsin, but for the most part, it would be an all snowmaker for the viewing area. And so when we look at the potential of how much snow we could see, you're going to see a slight difference in the models there. The European, one of the heavier snowfall models that brings that axis of heavy snow right from Platteville through the Madison area up towards Sheboygan. The GFS a little bit farther towards the north and west with that. And I think that's where we have greater confidence in seeing some of the heaviest snow, which is why those winter storm warnings really include the north and west more than they do the south and east. But I think everyone will see accumulating snow from this event as we go from Tuesday and into Wednesday. So here are those winter storm watches once again, just kind of showing you that placement towards the north there. But as we look farther through the next 7 days, things certainly will be getting cold out there. But let's go to Jason or Josh Tim with your first alert traffic. Josh?
Yeah, it's a quiet start on the Beltline this morning. No major delays to worry about right now in either direction. Roads here in Dane County looking pretty good. Just a few of the usual brake lights on Verona Road and Stoughton Road approaching the Beltline ramps. No delays showing up downtown and around campus. Look for things to pick up over the next hour or so. And other main routes coming into Madison, they're cruising along at the posted speeds with no major crashes or delays. For your first alert traffic, I'm Josh Tim.
All right, thank you, Josh, and thank you, Chris. So the city of Madison, Dane County, and some area nonprofits are all going to work together to make sure kids are taking time to recognize why they have school off through the day.
Yeah, there is a series of workshops happening this afternoon, teaching middle and high schoolers about Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. Gloria Hawkins joins us this morning from the King Coalition to talk more about the youth call to service. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
And thank you for inviting us. It's really a pleasure. One of the reasons why we are having the youth call to service is because I think it's really imperative that we as adults not only celebrate the life of Dr. King, but also that we really plant the seeds with young people, that they know about Dr. King, why we have some of the privileges that we have today, and while it's important for us to really give back to the community and be a part of change within the community. We cannot just rely on just giving information out, but we have to engage young people, and that's why we have a series of workshops this afternoon.
I'm curious, why did you get involved, Gloria, and what about this keeps you going? I mean, you're all volunteers doing this. This takes probably a lot of time and energy.
Certainly.
Is there something about Dr. King's legacy that you want to make sure gets across, especially to the young people?
Well, yes, I think that a lot of the things that we are doing today in terms of just really acting and exercising our rights. There was a time in this country when that was not the case. And I was once a young person who grew up in the South during segregation. And I remember hearing about Dr. King and also what he was trying to make, how he was trying to make an impact on not only the communities in which I live, but throughout the country. That as citizens of this country, we had the right to exercise certain freedoms, and that we did not have those full freedoms. And that is to really attend the schools that would be to your advantage so that you could ultimately be prepared to make an impact and to really make a contribution to society. We want young people to achieve to their highest, and really achieve the goals that they set and to use their potential. And one of the ways that they can do that is through education, through knowing what the opportunities are available to them, and that we must not take these things so lightly. And so I think that it's important to let young people know, and that's one of the things that keeps driving me. But also, with the opportunities that we're given, we have responsibilities to give back and make an impact in the communities in which we reside.
Love that.
Briefly, let's take a look at the information for some of these workshops that are happening today. They're running from 12:30 until 6 over at the Madison Municipal Building, and these are educational workshops for young kiddos and opportunities for volunteering here in our area. But we also want to talk a little bit about the Madison and Dane County Observance event, because that's pretty exciting.
Well, one of the things also at the very end of the youth call to service is that they're going to march from the municipal building down to the Overture Center, and at 5 o'clock at the Overture Center in the lobby, we have what we call a sing-in of freedom songs. And so people who are coming to the program have an opportunity to just really engage in singing and enjoying themselves. And then at 6 o'clock, we do have the program that starts. And we're very fortunate to have Cheryl Brown Henderson, who is one of the daughters of the gentleman, Reverend Oliver Brown, who really brought suit against the Board of Education in Topeka, Kansas.
A lot going on today. I know there's a lot going on this weekend, so be sure to check channel3000.com too for all the information. Thank you so much for coming in.
And thank you for inviting us. It's a pleasure.
We appreciate it.
All right, your time right now, 6:19. A growing number of parents aren't getting their kids vaccinated for certain diseases for whatever reason, and now it's one of the top health hazards in the world.
And we are keeping an eye on any potential delays over at the Dane County Airport this morning, where there's a power outage. Josh Spreiter is going to have a live update coming up on News 3 this morning.
Negative 13 is the wind chill in Madison right now. Negative 21 as you work your way over towards Lone Rock. And a lot of these actual air temperatures on the colder side as well. Places like Laval, where it's negative 21 right now. Here in Madison, negative 13 is our temperature. Winds coming out of the north-northwest at 3 miles per hour. And you're starting to see a little bit of sunshine on the horizon in the background there. Now, going through the morning, we'll jump to 11 and then eventually towards 8 degrees. But by the afternoon, highs will be right around 16. That cloud cover, though, it will be on the increase. That's our next system that is going to be moving into the picture, bringing heavy snow, freezing rain, and some rain to the area. Winter storm watches are in effect from Tuesday morning through Wednesday morning, as that's the period where we could see some of the heaviest snow fly once again throughout Madison. Guys?
Thank you so much, Chris. So we do want to remind you that there are a number of places to turn when the temperatures get dangerously cold like they are this morning. Families and women can go to the Salvation Army's emergency shelter on East Washington Avenue. That opened over the weekend. Also on East Wash, closer to the Capitol, the Beacon Day shelter opens at 8 o'clock this morning. Porchlight in downtown Madison has a temporary shelter where single men are invited to stay overnight as well. And then all of the branches of the Madison Public Library will be open during the day to people who need to get out of the cold. There are several shelter options as well in Rock County. You can find a more complete list over on channel3000.com.
State lawmakers could vote as soon as this week on a measure to make sure protections for pre-existing conditions stay in place, even if the Affordable Care Act is struck down. That proposal is on its way to a vote in the full assembly after passing committee last week. But even after meeting with Republican lawmakers, Governor Tony Evers has said he's not sure if he'll support the bill in its current form. He tweeted the proposal is a step in the right direction, but he would need to see some changes in order to sign it. That includes adding a ban on lifetime caps for insurance and specifying which benefits insurers have to cover. Evers has said he won't support anything that doesn't include those specific protections.
If you know anyone who does not get their children vaccinated, this is a story to pass along. The World Health Organization says reluctance to get shots is among the top 10 threats to the global health here in the world, I should say, in 2019. Now, that agency calls vaccines one of the most cost-effective ways to avoid disease, saving up to 3 million lives a year and possibly saving another 1.5 million more if shots became more widely available. It cites measles cases increasing by 30%, some of which is blamed on families turning down measles vaccines for whatever reason.
There is a new type of mosquito repellent that could hit the market soon, and it comes from a pretty unique source. UW researchers are the first to create a repellent based on bacteria. Now, it looks like it might actually work at lower doses than DEET or other chemicals you'll find listed on your can of off. It also appears to be effective against the species that transmit diseases like Zika and West Nile. That study is still in its early stages, but researchers are hopeful it might help out in other cases as well, like ticks. Okay, 6:26 your time now. Josh Spreiter is giving us live updates on the power outage over at the Dane County Airport and whether that's going to impact any flights today. We'll check in with him after the break.
And Sauk County investigators are looking into a possible arson as restaurant owners work to rebuild. The news is back in the morning on News 3 this morning.
The Catholic Diocese of Madison says it's considering an investigation into sexual abuse allegations.
Breaking now, the power is out of the Dane County Regional Airport, affecting flights out of here this morning. I'm Josh Brutter, live from the airport with the very latest straight ahead.
This is News 3 This Morning.
Good morning and welcome to the final half hour of News 3 This Morning. It's 6:30 now on this Monday, January 21st. And bundle up, folks. It is below zero right now. Wind chills even lower than that.
Yeah, let's turn it over to Chris Reese, because the quicker he gives the forecast, the quicker he can get inside. Right, Chris?
Exactly.
That's right. But Leah, you're not wrong. I mean, it is below freezing out there, just certainly on a much colder note. We're talking wind chills that are greater than 10, maybe even 20 degrees below zero in some spots. Now, we had a wind chill of negative 24 in Madison earlier. Things have gotten a little bit better. The actual air temperature, though, negative 13 right now. Winds only at 3 miles per hour, and that is our solace. Negative 6, though. That's the wind chill as you work your way down towards Janesville. That's probably the actual air temperature for Janesville as well. Wind chill of negative 20 as you work your way over towards Lone Rock, Platteville, and Black River Falls. Negative 22 is how cold it actually does feel out there. Now, as we plan our day, things do get a little bit better. We'll gradually begin to warm up. 8 degrees as we approach lunchtime as well. 12 by lunchtime, or 14 rather, by lunchtime, that is, and then 16 for your high as we get you into the afternoon. Notice, though, cloud cover does begin to increase. That's our next system moving into the picture, and that is why we do have winter storm watches in play from 6 o'clock tomorrow morning through 6 o'clock on Wednesday. That next system will have some banding of heavy snow, and the areas in the winter storm watch is where we do believe that the banding of heavy snow has the best chance to set up. And in that area, we're talking several inches of snow that are possible. In fact, here is one of the models just showing that system coming into the picture and potentially lasting all the way into your Wednesday morning commute as well. So that's certainly going to be something to watch. We do have an alert day for your Tuesday. Also, freezing rain, and rain is something that could mix into the system as a whole. Let's go ahead and show you guys first alert traffic if you are getting ready to hit the road this morning. This is East Wash at 2nd Street, and so far things are moving along smoothly. There are no major issues showing up. We are starting to see our typical backups right around the Beltline and Stoughton Road this morning. Across Dane County, things for the most part are running along smoothly with no major issues or delays, guys.
All right, thank you so much, Chris. So Dane County Regional is in the dark this morning. An airport spokesperson says a generator did not turn on like it should have. Josh Spreiter joins us live from the airport this morning with the latest on this power outage. Josh, what can you tell us?
Good morning. We do know that no flights will be leaving the airport until that power is turned back on. You can see that TSA line is actually growing behind me. Because that power is out, nobody can go through security. We do know that MG&E is on the scene trying to get that power back up and running. So here's what we do know so far. The power went out around 5:30 this morning. A spokesperson tells News 3 the backup generator should have kicked in but did not. The airport has people working to get that up and running ASAP. And as I mentioned, no flights are departing until the power is back on. The outage is only affecting the terminal, not the airfield itself, so planes can still land here at the Dane County Regional Airport. I'm told once that generator kicks back in, people will be able to get through security and things will be up and running as normal. Officials are trying to help those with connecting flights as accordingly as possible, and we actually just had one lady come up to us and try to use our light so she could call and try to figure out her connecting flight situation. So again, live here at the Dane County Regional Airport, where we're dealing with a power outage this morning. No flights will be going out until that outage is going to be fixed. We do know crews are on scene trying to get that fixed as well as far as MG&E goes, and there are airport officials here trying to get the backup generator up and running so things can start moving smoothly. So a lot going on here. We will keep you updated throughout the morning. Back to you guys.
Josh, is there any indication at this point when this could be over and done with?
Spokesperson tells me, and he should be here any minute, he's actually on his way here, tells me that they should have it up and running at any moment. They've got crews working on it. Basically, it didn't start up properly after the power went out, so they're trying to get that up and running right now. So it should be any moment. We're kind of unclear on when exactly, but it should be soon.
Something you're going to want to pass along to the passengers behind you, I'm sure. Josh Spreiter reporting live from the airport. Thank you, Josh.
6:34 now. Police in Madison are looking for whoever's responsible for shooting into a pregnant woman's home overnight. It happened just before midnight along Clare Street near the Lusher YMCA over on the east side. Police say the 41-year-old pregnant woman and another man were watching TV when shots went through their television, across their living room, and into a wall behind them. Broken glass hit the man, but the woman was not hurt. Police are still looking for any suspects in that case. New this morning, police in Wanakee are warning people to lock their car doors after a rash of reports over the weekend. In a Facebook post, officials said multiple people called in saying someone had gone through their vehicle in the middle of the afternoon. Now, those cars were left unlocked, but in garages. Police say they have identified a possible suspect in a white Audi SUV. Now, that person has not yet been named.
Dane County deputies are looking for a man who was able to remove his monitoring device and escape from work release. 40-year-old Shannon Owen of Madison is serving a 60-day sentence for cocaine possession. He was living in the Grand Stay Hotel east of the interstate Saturday night when he allegedly got into a car, removed his GPS tracking bracelet, and left. Anyone with information on Owen is asked to call 911.
The Catholic Diocese based here in Madison is now considering an investigation into sexual abuse allegations against clergy members. This comes after the Green Bay Diocese announced last week more than 40 members of its clergy had abused minors, some of which happened more than 100 years ago. The State Journal reports a spokesperson for the Madison Diocese says staff are taking steps toward launching an investigation, but the unexpected death of Bishop Robert Morlino back in November had put those plans on hold. According to that spokesperson, the investigation would focus on substantiated allegations against clergy members accused of sexually abusing minors.
Investigators in Baraboo are looking into whether someone intentionally started a fire at an iconic business there. The owner of the Barn Restaurant and Bar, Amber Giddings, says she does plan to rebuild. That popular spot sits on a hill above Devil's Lake. It was burned down last month, just a day after an apparent break-in and arson incident. Giddings suspects that the fire was indeed set intentionally. While authorities figure that out, though, the outpouring of support, she says, has been fantastic.
My heart needs to make sure I rebuild it as best as I can so that it's here for the next generation, because the lake's not going anywhere. I don't think the barn is going anywhere.
The barn will be holding fundraisers next month, and Giddings has set up a GoFundMe page as well. You can find all of the information over on channel3000.com.
A historic city hall damaged in last summer's explosion in downtown Sun Prairie could soon be restored. That building sits on the corner of Bristol and Main. The Sun Prairie Star reports the building's owner bought it just before the July 10th explosion, which damaged the roof and some of its interior. It's been sitting vacant there since then. The owner is now in the process of getting the City Hall designated as a historical landmark, which could lead to tax credits to restore the old bell tower and the doors. That move will require state and federal approval.
All right, 6:37 right now. If you need to find a silver lining with these below zero temperatures today, there is no concern about ice castles getting melted in this kind of weather. We'll have the details coming up in the morning sprint.
And too much cheese? Never heard of such a thing. But farmers say they're dealing with a cheese surplus right now. We're going to share why when News 3 this morning continues. So apparently us cheeseheads can't eat all the brie and cheddar in the world. Wisconsin Public Radio reports we are dealing with an all-time high cheese surplus across the country. It's at a record 1.4 billion pounds as of late last year. At 900,000 cubic yards, that's roughly the same size as the U.S. Capitol. Now, it's due in part to an oversupply of milk, which is turned into cheese since it has a longer shelf life. But experts say the dairy industry is cautiously optimistic that this surplus won't stick around long. Okay, 6:41 now. We're in a little bit of denial this morning about just how cold it is outside, but Chris Reese is bringing that reality from the Hattie-O Patio this morning. Temperatures in the negative territory to start out your work week. He has your first alert forecast coming up.
First, though, if you have a kiddo turning 3 soon, please let us know so we can show their picture on TV. Thanks for watching News 3 this morning. .45 on this Monday morning, and travelers could miss their connecting flights as a power outage at Dane County Regional delays those departures.
Let's get right over to Josh Sprider with more from the airport spokesperson this morning. Josh.
Good morning. As you can tell, we are still sitting here in the dark, and now we've got a spokesperson with the airport, Brent McHenry, here to tell us a little bit more. And Brent, what can you update us here?
Well, we know this morning that at about 5:30, just a little bit after 5:30, MG&E had a power failure to our building. Because of the way our buildings are designed, there's several power feeds that power each section of the building. That MG&E happens to power the terminal building, so the airfield is powered by a different power source that's up and operational. So planes are able to land and depart safely at this time from our airport. The challenge is once they get to the terminal, they're not able to come in and out of the terminal because obviously we don't have power. We have MG&E on site right now repairing the generator that should have started as soon as the power outage went out. MG&E controls and monitors and manages a large generator in-house. in this event, you know, because they know that power can be unstable at times. They have a generator on site. Unfortunately, that generator didn't start as prescribed at the moment that the power went out. So they are on scene at this moment repairing that. So we anticipate either a recovery of full power, meaning full MG&E power, or the generator, which would be able to power the entire facility in the next few minutes. They're actually working on it as we speak.
So we've just got a few seconds left. So right now, no flights are departing, correct?
They aren't departing. They are departing if the people were on the plane and already on the taxiway. They're not departing if they needed to be screened or board the jet bridge onto the plane, because there isn't a way to move the jet bridge up to the plane. So if they were already on a plane, they've already departed. If they're arriving on a plane, they're either holding at their destination before flying here, or they're holding on the tarmac waiting for us to be able to take them at a gate.
And real quick, if people are going to be flying out of here this morning, what should they know?
Watch the website. Don't come to the airport. The airport is officially closed right now, the terminal, so we don't want additional people coming to the airport until we have the power back on, and we can do that safely.
All right, Brent. Well, thank you so much.
Yep.
As you heard there, we will continue to have more updates throughout the morning. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, a lot of disruptions for travelers this morning. Josh Breiter reporting live from the airport. Thank you, Josh.
All right, over to Chris now with the other top news of the morning. Those freezing temperatures below zero, Chris.
Yeah, that's right, Leah. Actual wind chills are a lot colder as well. Now, the air temperature in Madison is -13, and that's the wind chill right now. Some of those wind chills are as cold as -20, -24 as you work your way over towards Perry Duchesne. And the winds are fairly light in Madison, coming out of the north and northwest at roughly 3 miles per hour. So as you step out, yes, it's cold. It's 13 below, but the wind should not be a major issue for you. Speaking of major issues, we have declared an alert day into Tuesday. That's where we could see heavy snow and freezing rain returning to our area once again. In fact, we do have winter storm watches in effect from 6 a.m. tomorrow through 6 a.m. on Wednesday. That does include us here in Madison. Towards the south and east, I wouldn't be surprised to see winter weather advisories issued for you guys later on today. Here's one of the models. All the models really agree on giving us snow. They just differ on the exact track of the low and how much warm air we can actually get involved, which is kind of funny to say given how cold it already is. But here's the deal. The GFS actually brings in a period of freezing rain before going back over to snow. That snow ending before rush hour on Wednesday, according to the GFS. Now, the European is a little bit longer duration and farther to the south with the system, so that snow lasts a lot longer. Here we are into the morning on Wednesday, and it keeps that snow around until about lunchtime on Wednesday. So that is something to watch. That's why its heaviest axis of snow is from Platteville through Madison and towards Sheboygan. The GFS has that heaviest axis of snow still a little bit farther towards the north and west, and that is why I do think the winter storm watches are farther north and west as well, as this is probably where the greatest area of snow will probably fall. But of course, we still have some time to fine-tune those details. Temperatures, though, will be falling throughout the week. Your alert date on Tuesday, 8 by Friday. And then as we get you towards next week, it's possible to have a day that we do not get above zero for our highs, guys.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Stay with us. The Morning Sprint is up next right here on News 3 This Morning.
6:52, time for the morning sprint. Chris Reese has dangerously cold temperatures to start your morning.
We don't know yet whether that cold is responsible for a power outage at the Dane County Airport. Josh Sprider is live there this morning with the latest. Josh?
Good morning, ladies. As you can see, we are still in the dark this morning, and that means no crews, or no flights rather, will be heading out of the airport here. You can see people standing at the check-in desk behind me, and there's also a line at the TSA security checkpoint as well. Here's what we know so far. The power went out around 5:30 this morning. A backup generator should have kicked in, but didn't. The airport and MG&E is working to get that up as soon as possible, and that should be up any minute. As I mentioned, no flights are departing until that outage is fixed, and I'm told once that generator kicks in, everything will be up and running here again. If you are flying out of the airport this morning, do plan ahead as the airport is closed until that power gets back up. Back to you.
We will be able to emerge from the bleak and desolate midnight of man's inhumanity to man into the bright and glittering daybreak of freedom and justice.
In honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, there is a special event and speaker tonight at the Overture Center. Cheryl Brown Henderson is one of 3 daughters of the late Reverend Oliver L. Brown, who filed a suit on behalf of his children that became the landmark decision Brown versus Board of Education.
There's a historic address happening on the UW-Madison campus in honor of Dr. King. Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes will be giving the keynote speech there as the first ever African-American in that position here in the state. The event at Union South this afternoon will honor the life of Dr. King and the many ways UW students, faculty, and staff embody his spirit of service. Now, that event is full, but you can still get on the wait list. We have that information up on channel3000.com.
Speaking of a spirit of service, there is a series of workshops for middle and high schoolers today, educating those young people about Dr. King's legacy and the civil rights movement. That happens at the Madison Municipal Building starting at 12:30 this afternoon. It's called a Youth Call to Service, highlighting how those students can make an impact through volunteer projects.
And we are starting things off on a very cold note. Temperatures below zero by 13 degrees this morning. Winds out of the north and northwest at 3 miles per hour. Now, as we go farther through the morning, we'll see our temperatures come towards -11 and then eventually towards 8 degrees closer towards lunchtime, eventually topping out around 16 degrees this afternoon. But clouds will be on the increase. An alert day has been declared for Tuesday as another winter storm moves into our area.
Thank you, Chris. We want to remind you there are a number of places to turn to when temperatures get dangerously cold like this. Families and women can go to the Salvation Army's emergency shelter on East Washington Avenue. That opened over the weekend. The Beacon Day Shelter and Porch Light are also open, and so are all branches of the Madison Public Library.
On Capitol Hill, the Senate is expected to vote tomorrow on President Trump's proposal to end the government shutdown. We're entering week 5 of that partial shutdown right now. Over the weekend, the president offered temporary protection for some immigrants who were illegally brought into the country while they were kids in exchange for funding for a wall at the U.S.-Mexico border.
Police in Madison are looking for whoever's responsible for shooting into a pregnant woman's home overnight. It happened just before midnight along Clare Street near the Lucier YMCA on the east side. Police say the 41-year-old pregnant woman and another man were watching TV when the shots went through their television, across the living room, and into a back wall. Police are still looking for any suspects in that case.
The Catholic Diocese of Madison says it is considering an investigation into sexual abuse allegations against its clergy members. The Green Bay Diocese announced last week that more than 40 of its clergy members had abused minors, that abuse reaching back over 100 years. A spokesperson with the Madison Diocese told the State Journal that staff members were already taking steps toward launching an investigation in the fall, but the unexpected death of Bishop Robert Morlino put those plans on hold.
The silver lining to all these cold temperatures, a winter wonderland in our area can finally reopen after months of weather that's been too warm. Later this week, the Lake Geneva ice castles are finally expected to open. Crews have had to start construction on the 10,000 icicles there over 5 times now due to the rain. The ice castles will now open on Wednesday ahead of the Lake Geneva Winterfest.
All right, it is just about 6:57. Let's see if all that cold has affected anything out on the roads with Josh Tim. Hi, Josh.
Yeah, good morning. The westbound Beltline is picking up as everyone heads out for the day. Look for a few brake lights between Stoughton Road and West Broadway. Inbound John Nolan looking pretty good right now. Just a minute delay approaching the North Shore Drive intersection. Other main routes coming into Madison, they're still moving along at the usual speeds right now, though, with no major crashes or delays in any direction. With your first alert traffic, I'm Josh Tim.
Thank you very much, Josh.
And we do have winter storm watches in effect for a large portion of the area other than the extreme southeastern quadrant of Wisconsin. These winter storm watches are due to the next system that is going to be moving into the picture as early as Tuesday morning. Heavy snow could overspread the area as we head from Tuesday all the way into Wednesday morning as well. We'll be watching that closely.
Thank you, Chris, and stay with us right here on News 3 throughout the day and on Channel 3000 for updates to that power outage at the airport.